William Carey famously said, "I'm a dreamer and continue to dream of what can and will be, expecting great things from God, attempting great things for God." Let us first talk about greatness. And Jesus called them to him and said to them, "You know that those who are considered rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must first be your servant, and whoever would be first among you must be slave to all. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." That's found in Mark chapter 10, verses 42 to 45. So how does the world define greatness? Well, many consider greatness in terms of accumulation of wealth, social status, educational achievements, vocational advancement, and popularity. What about the definition within the church? Well, many church leaders, unfortunately, are considered successful by size of church, numbers of books or songs one has written or performed, and how popular someone is on the speaking and conference circuits. But then we come to the words of Jesus, and in the words of the Lord, there's only one thing, one role that he recognizes as a true measure of greatness, and that is servanthood. And I believe this is how William Carey viewed greatness. The evidence is in the life that he lived. William Carey was an English Baptist ministry known as the father of modern missions. He was also a translator and social reformer who spent over 40 years in India. He went to Calcutta in 1793. One of his first contributions was to start a school for impoverished children. He campaigned feverishly to end a practice among Hindus in which a widow sacrifices herself by sitting upon her deceased husband's burning body. He translated the Bible into Bengali, Hindi, Sanskrit, and several other languages. He faced extreme opposition and hardship during his time in India. We can definitely say that servanthood was William Carey's concept of greatness. Listen to a few more quotes of his. He said, "To know the will of God, we need an open Bible and an open map." He also said, "You have been speaking about William Carey. When I'm gone, say nothing about William Carey. Speak only about William Carey's Savior." He also wrote, "When I left England, my hope was India's conversion to be very strong, but amongst so many obstacles, it would die unless upheld by God. Well, I have God, and his word is true. Though the superstitions of the heathen were 1,000 times stronger than they are, and the example of the Europeans 1,000 times worse, though I were deserted by all and persecuted by all, yet my faith, fixed on the sure word, would rise above all obstructions and overcome every trial. And God's cause will triumph." He also said, "I'm not afraid of failure. I'm afraid of succeeding at things that don't matter." You know, in Mark chapter 3, verses 13 and 19, we find the appointing of the 12, whom Jesus named as apostles. It is interesting to note that 7 of the 12, whom he called, make their only appearance in Mark's gospel in this passage. Think about it. Jesus chooses you out of the crowds to be one of his 12. You enter the ministry stage and there's no fuss, there's no great stories, no fame, no books, no conferences. You know, I wonder, am I content with being called and unknown? Am I willing to serve in obscurity but be known only by Jesus? I would like to conclude with 4 questions that keep me grounded. I ask myself these questions on a regular basis. Number 1, what are the things that stir my affections for Christ? Also, am I helping people to come to know and fall in love with Jesus? Am I falling more and more in love with Jesus myself each day? And number 4, am I willing to live a life worthy of the gospel? I want to encourage you guys today. Do you want to do great things? Be a servant.